One trusts you have met Shenhe. So, are you getting along quite well?
So far so good, yeah! So, you know Shenhe too, Cloud Retainer?
Naturally. Save for Ganyu, who spends the majority of her time in Liyue Harbor. All the Adepti living today are acquainted with Shenhe to some degree.
Cool! So, what's her Adeptus name anyway? Calling her Shenhe feels kind of friendly, but also kind of disrespectful. So Paimon's thinking maybe it'd be better if we called her by her Adeptus name instead.
Her Adeptus name? Why, pray tell, would Shenhe have an Adeptus name?
Don't all Adepti have a special title they go by?
On this latter point, you are correct. However, Shenhe is human.
Oh, right. Wait, what? Paimon neither! This is a real surprise!
Do you mean to say that she presents differently from ordinary human beings?
Well, to start with, her problem-solving methods are extremely direct.
Ah, yes. She was like this all those years ago when one first met her. In this respect, she has not changed. One first found Shenhe by chance in a cave. One was passing by and sensed the presence of a god's remains. Being of an ever-vigilant disposition, one entered immediately to inspect the scene. Inside was Shenhe, then aged around 6 years old. In her hand, she held a dagger with which she was confronting a monster that was the god's remains incarnate.
That sounds so dangerous.
When one arrived, she had already been locked in confrontation with this monster for several days. Most mortal children are fragile, both physically and mentally, and are highly reliant on their parents for survival, but not so her. That she was able to endure such terrible danger was due not only to her strong willpower, but also to the bloodlust and homicidal instinct with which she was born. One dealt with the monster, yet she still refused to lower her guard. She even pointed her dagger in one's direction and remained ready to strike. Only after she was satisfied that one had no intention to cause her harm did she finally relent. She then passed out without uttering a single word.
In other words, if you hadn't passed by that day, Shenhe might have...
Not necessarily. Upon one's arrival, one could sense that the god's wrath was gradually receding. Even had the stalemate continued, one suspects that Shenhe may have still emerged the victor of the confrontation.
That's still so dangerous, though! Why was a tiny little kid battling against the wrath of a god in the first place?
Alas, the mortal world is rife with suffering of every kind. And she had experienced her fair share of this, even at a tender age. Seeing that she was homeless, one decided to adopt her. Indeed, it is one to whom she refers. Shenhe has an extraordinary constitution, making her well adapted to practicing the Adepti arts. All the Adepti cherished her talents, and so we were willing to train her. However, her homicidal urges did not subside with age. Rather, they grew stronger day by day. Mooncarver once performed a divination for her. He declared that her fate is to bear the curse of calamity. Consumed by malevolent energy, she is prone to bring harm to those around her. Such is the magnitude of the danger this poses, that her soul must be bound with red ropes to keep her homicidal instinct at bay. The red ropes have indeed served to keep her calmer and more content. They also seem to have rendered her somewhat inexpressive. Perhaps the red ropes are so powerful that they have suppressed some of her other emotions as well. It is only by fate that people's paths may cross. Now that Shenhe's path has crossed with yours, please be sure to treasure the gift that fate has given you, and take good care of her.
Oh, now Paimon gets it. You came out here to check up on Shenhe because you were worried about her, didn't you?
Huh. You dare draw such a facile conclusion on the nature of one's present excursion? Incorrect. The truth is that while Liyue Harbor may seem peaceful today, danger is always lurking in the shadows. Ningguang once made a bold assertion that this is to be the era of the contract between Liyue and the humans. Well, one is most curious to observe how she will respond to the coming storm. If she handles it admirably, one is willing to be a witness to her achievements. But if she does not, the Adepti shall not hesitate to seize control. Let us conclude our conversation here for today. One has occupied enough of your time, and night is approaching. Be sure to get ample rest.
Hey! So, Shenhe...
Master has relayed my situation to you, I take it.
Oh? How did you know?
I'd intended to wait until you came back before going to sleep, but I didn't hear you come in. I was worried that something may have happened to you. So I went outside to check and caught sight of my master. On top of this, you have been acting very strangely around me this morning, causing me to suspect that my master must have told you everything about me. After all, master is... very talkative.
Sorry, Shenhe. Paimon had you down as an Adeptus this whole time, but it turns out Paimon was wrong.
It's okay. I don't mind. The fault is mine for not explaining everything to you sooner, because in my experience, trying to explain is a futile pursuit. Still, though you mistook me for an Adeptus, you never treated me as distant and unapproachable. Instead, you treated me as you would a friend. For this, I am very grateful indeed.
To be fair, we've met our fair share of real Adepti, too. Anyway, now it's settled. From now on, you're our friend. Whether you're an Adeptus or a human isn't the important thing. First and foremost, we're just plain old friends.
I came to Mount Tianeng once with my father as a child. I remember it being such a long climb that I could barely feel my legs by the time we reached the top. This is quite a trip down memory lane for me. Look at these majestic, towering peaks, and the gently flowing streams. It's like setting foot in paradise. No wonder the legend of the divine Damsel of Devastation is said to have taken place here. Adepti wander oft where mortals seldom stride. Indeed, this looks like a place that one might expect to be frequented by Adepti.
The divine Damsel of Devastation is your upcoming opera, right? And the story takes place in Mount Tianheng. Huh. Seems like you have a real connection with this place. What's the story about, though?
It's the story of a girl becoming a hero.
Cool. A hero story? They're Paimon's favorite!
The legend first arose in this area. It is said that there used to be a prosperous village on the mountain. In that village, there was a loving couple who were completely devoted to one another. One day, a terrifying monster appeared. The wife was out collecting herbs and was captured by the monster. Her husband was so distraught at the news that it broke his spirit and drove him to madness. The vile and vicious monster told the villagers, "If you want to live, you must sacrifice a child to me."
What a nasty piece of work! Paimon sure hopes this monster gets put in its place!
But the monster was so terrible and so strong that all within the village were terrified of it. They had no... Just while they were discussing whose child would be given over to the monster, a little girl suddenly stood up and came forward.
No! Don't do it, little girl!
Unbeknownst to anybody else, she was concealing an exorcist's blade. She approached the monster's lair, feigning fear and trepidation. When she finally arrived, she courageously drew her sword and entered into a fierce struggle with the monster, from which she eventually emerged as the victor. Her extraordinary abilities drew the attention of the Adepti, and they took her as one of their own. Her story became the stuff of legends. But alas, the paths of mortals and Adepti seldom cross, and she would never again re-enter the mortal world. And so, destined to grace the mortal realm for but a brief moment, she vanished like a wisp of smoke into thin air. That's how the opera ends.
I really like this story. But I personally think that perhaps the little girl was not as brave as the opera makes her out to be. I'm not sure she deserves all the praise she is given.
I've never considered that before. Opera is always an interpretation of the events it purports to portray. A certain degree of deviation from the truth is always inevitable. When my father wrote the script for this play, I suppose his intention was to inspire his audience with the character of the divine damsel.
I think it's a great story. The ideal story.
Well, it sure inspired Paimon! Let's go get ourselves some Star Splinter Iron! Yeah!
What's this? So, Shenhe is the divine damsel? Now that I think about it, she does behave rather like an adeptus, and she is about the right age. So that's why I've been getting the strangest feeling whenever I chat with her. I should have noticed it earlier. According to this text, the divine damsel from the opera was actually the daughter of the loving couple. And she didn't volunteer. She was sacrificed to the monster by her own father. Oh, the truth is even more lamentable than the opera. Now I understand why Shenhe said the girl was not as brave as people think. It wasn't her choice to enter that ghastly situation. She was forced into it. Oh, it looks like my father may need to make a few revisions to his beloved opera. So it seems that Shenhe's father thought he was summoning a benevolent deity using a magic incantation. But in fact, he summoned an evil god's remains, which took the form of a monster. His obsessive yearning for his deceased wife led to a terrible tragedy. The villagers moved away in fear, without ever learning the truth. And now, this place is deserted. Still, I do wonder what the connection is between Shenhe and Mingjun.
We've looked everywhere, but still no mention of Subrosium. Let's have a look over there. This is it! So basically, we need to go to the middle of the lake south of Mount Tianheng at dusk, and we'll find us some Subrosium! Let's go back and tell Shenhe the news!
One year when I was back visiting, I heard a story about a white-haired adeptess from a merchant passing by. I never imagined it was you. I was a very close friend of your father's. I could have stopped him from performing the summoning ritual. I had plenty of chances, but I couldn't bring myself to stand up to him. I just let things happen, let it all escalate. And, well, we all know how that story ended. I bring flowers back here every year. And each time I wish I had a chance to apologize to you.
Apologize for what? If you'd stopped him, he'd only have found another way. There is nothing he wouldn't have done for his true love. Nothing.
Do you still hate him?
I don't know what I feel. I'm told my fate is to bear the curse of calamity, so my master bound my soul with red ropes to curb my aggression. But it also dampened my emotions, making me dispassionate, like the Adepti. So if you ask me how I feel about the past, if I hate my father or not, the truth is, I feel nothing at all.
It must have been so tough for you all these years.
Shenhe, we're back!
Oh, then I will leave you all in peace. Shenhe, it brings me some solace knowing that you are okay. I'll tell you more about the old times next time we meet.
Thanks, mister. We found some info in the end. Shenhe, look! This tells us how to find Subrosium. All we gotta do is go to the middle of that lake!
Let's go then.
Miss Shenhe, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. Just now, in the village, we found your father's diary. It turns out that many of the details in the divine Damsel of Devastation are not true to the facts. So I'd like to change them.
Why?
I know I say that opera always deviates from the truth, but now that the main character is standing right here in front of me, I cannot simply dismiss your lived experience in favor of my father's fiction.
It's okay. I like your version.
Huh?
My master once said that the day I learn how to use my strength for the good of others is the day that I can truly become part of human society. So, I hope that one day I might be brave enough to stand up and protect others, just like the girl in the opera. But I've never thought this way before, and I wonder whether I will continue to think in this way.
Don't worry. I believe you will. In fact, I think maybe you've already started to become the person you aspire to be. You just haven't had the opportunity to see it for yourself yet.
Shenhe! Yunjin! Cut the chit-chat! Let's go! We can't let someone else beat us to it!
You are a cursed child. Your life brings nothing but disaster to us all. At least if you die, I can bring her back.
The day you learn how to use your strength for the good of others is the day that you can truly become part of human society.
神女劈冠到这里本该接近尾声，但今日我再添一笔，唱与诸位听。世道未必人不识，自有知音多情思。红缨烈烈见流星，只知不愁心。彼时鹤归，茫茫天地无依靠，孤身离去。今日再会，新朋旧友坐满堂，共聚此时。
What did you think? Personally, I thought I sang rather well.
It was beautiful. Paimon wants to learn too.
It was wonderful. Also, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks to you, the divine Damsel of Devastation is a more nuanced tale than ever. The play has an ending, but life goes on. I believe you will find a way to fit in Liyue Harbor.
Thank you. I think I've found the opportunity I needed to change.